2026 Board of Education meeting. This is Joe Cilio speaking. At this time, can you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? To the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do you notice if today's meeting has been served to all members of the Board of Education as required by law? I'll take attendance quickly. Joe Cilio, present. Kristen Pappas, trustee. Liz Gaffney, trustee, is excused. Aaron Diebrich, trustee. Deb Capani, trustee. At this time, we have a motion that the Board of Education appoints District Counsel Christy Jacobson as temporary chair. All in favor? Aye.
Thank you very much. I will now call for nominations for the office of President of the Board of Education for the 2026-2027 school year. Are there any nominations?
I would like to nominate Kristen Pappas as President of the Board of Education.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Are there any further nominations? Okay, so at this time, may I have a motion to elect Kristen Pappas as President of the Board of Education for the 2026-2027 school year? So moved. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion passes. Trustee Pappas has been elected president. At this time, President Pappas, I would ask you to please rise for the oath of office. Please raise your,
I'll make,
Sure.
maybe in the front right here.
Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States. That I will support the Constitution of the United States. And the Constitution of the State of New York. And the Constitution of the State of New York. And that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office. That I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of President of the Board of Education of the Garden City School District. Of President of the Board of Education of the Garden City School District. According to the best of my ability. According to the best of my ability. Congratulations. President Pappas, I now turn this meeting over to you.
I now call. I now call for nominations for the office of Vice President of the Board of Education for the 2026-2027 school year. Are there any further nominations? May I have a motion to elect Joe Cilio as Vice President of the Board of Education for the 2026-2027 school year?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
At this time, we will now conduct the oath of office. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Joseph Cilio, do solemnly swear or affirm
I, Joseph Cilio, do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States.
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office
and I will faithfully discharge the duties of office
of the Vice President of the Board of Education of the Garden City Union Free School District,
of the Vice President of the Board of Education of the Garden City Union School District,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my abilities. Thank you.
May I have a, this is like off and
Here
on.
you want this one?
May I have a motion that the Board of Education appoints Jacqueline Rehak as the district clerk for the 2026-2027 school year?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Please note, Jacqueline Rehak will take her oath of office at a later date. Dr. Sinha will now take the oath of office.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Dr. Asum Sinha, do solemnly swear or affirm
I, Kasum Sinha, solemnly swear or reaffirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office
and I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office
of the Superintendent of Schools of the Board of Education of the Garden City Union Free School District,
of the Superintendent of Schools of the Board of Education of the Garden City Union Free School District,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability. Thank you.
May, may I have a motion that the following board members be appointed to the following committees as liaisons for the 26-27 school year? For the Village of Garden City, we are appointing Deborah Kupani and Erin Diebrich as the liaisons. For the Audit Committee, Joe Cilio and Erin Diebrich. Legislative Affairs, Kristen Pappas and Elizabeth Gaffney. For Policy Review, Deborah Kupani and Joe Cilio. And for the District Safety Team, Kristen Pappas and Elizabeth Gaffney.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Sorry. Have it.
May I have a motion that the following board members be appointed to the following associations as liaisons for the 2026-2027 school year? We would like to appoint Kristen Pappas, Erin Diebrich, and Deborah Kupani to serve as liaisons for all of our property owners associations, the Central Property Owners Association, the Eastern Property Owners Association, the Property Owners Association of Garden City Estates, and the Western Property Owners Association.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
To make more efficient use of meeting time, the Board of Education authorizes the use of a consent agenda as part of the meeting agenda. A consent agenda allows for one motion to approve multiple items, and such items are identified as such on the agenda. The president of the board will ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda and will ask if board members wish to have any discussion or clarification on specific items contained within the consent agenda. Following the discussion, the board will then vote on the consent agenda motion. In addition, a board member may request to have an item removed from the consent agenda in order to vote on the motion separately. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes business of the board, items C1 through C4, district appointment items D1 through D19, business matters, items E1 through E11, and special education matters F1 through F4.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
May I have a motion that the Board of Education adjourns the district reorganization meeting and opens the regular session?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
May I have a motion that the Board of Education accepts the agenda for the July 1st, 2026 regular session as presented?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Effective Thursday, July 2nd, 2026, the district-wide safety plan will be available on the district website for a 30-day public comment period. After such time, the Board of Education will be adopting the plan. Please send any comments to the district clerk.
It'll be right on the front page.
This is a required annual reading of board policies. Annual reading of board policy 0110, sexual harassment. Annual reading of board policy 4257, responsible use. Annual reading of board policy 5100, comprehensive attendance policy. Annual reading of board policy 6240, investments. Annual reading of board policy 6700, purchasing policy. Annual reading of board policy 6900, disposal of district property. Okay, we'll move into this evening's reports. We'll start with the treasurer's report, which Dr. Sinha will give this report to us tonight.
Yes. So I'm just wondering, do we do because we have the literacy presentation before the reports. But I'll do the treasury report and then we'll do the literacy. Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay. Cash balance beginning of the month is at 53,047,130.91. Balance, disbursement, sorry, is $36,663,829.35. And that's a total, the cash balance end of the month is at $10,873,073.69. And the total available cash balance is at $78,837,886.57. And that's as of May 2023. Oh, I'm sorry, 2026. I apologize.
Nice data interpretation.
Yeah, I tried.
I think she did a little bit better, no offense.
So that's the treasurer's report. Should we go to the literacy? Yes, yeah, if we can. Yes, and we had shared with the board that we would be making a recommendation. And really, I had shared that in my letter that went out to our parents. And at that time, at the last board meeting, we weren't fully there. But we have Ms. Kaufman here and along with Destiny Braddock and Christy Solomon, our literacy coaches, that will share the recommendations and how we came up with the recommendations. There's been a lot of work around it for this entire year. Really want to thank everyone for that, and Dr. Bowman as well. There has been significant work related to the pilot and really thoughtful. It's been a thoughtful process. So I'd like to turn it over to you, Ms. Kaufman, to go over. And I would like it if you can start from the beginning and really take us to where we are with the recommendations.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Sinha. Good evening, everyone. Tonight, I'm grateful to provide an update on the work of the Literacy Review Team and to share the recommendation that emerged from a comprehensive review process. This work has been thoughtful, layered, and deeply collaborative. It included administrators, teachers, students, families, our literacy coaches, vendors, consultants, school visits, classroom pilots, feedback forms, and multiple opportunities to look closely at evidence. Most importantly, this work was grounded in one central question: what resource will best support literacy instruction, student learning, and coherence across our K-5 classrooms? Before we move into the details of the process, I want to ground us in our district mission and vision. Our mission reminds us that we seek to create a learning environment where each student can grow as an individual and as a member of a learning community. We want our students to experience learning that is developmentally appropriate, individualized, and challenging. Our vision reminds us that we are here to inspire and challenge students to accomplish their personal best. Literacy is central to that vision. Reading, writing, speaking, listening, vocabulary, background knowledge, and critical thinking are the tools students use to understand themselves, others, and the larger world. So as we reviewed resources, we are not simply looking for a program. We were looking for a resource that could help us strengthen a coherent experience for students across classrooms, grade levels, and buildings. This slide captures the scope of the journey. The literacy review process included resource reviews, vendor presentations, classroom pilots, student feedback, teacher feedback, administrator feedback, family feedback, outside school visits, and focus group work. At each step, we collected evidence, we listened to the people closest to the work, we asked questions, we looked at student artifacts, we paid attention to both the strengths and the challenges of each resource. And we are so proud that this process helped us narrow the field to 2 strong resources. Both MyView Literacy and Benchmark Advance offered valuable components, and the final recommendation reflects a careful analysis of which resource best aligns to our district priorities and the CASDA recommendations. The work was guided by the 5 CASDA recommendations, and I'd like to bring us back here because this is where we started this work last year, and those recommendations were shared with the board in September. They were meant to develop a unified and cohesive K-12 literacy framework, refine instructional time and practices, implement strategic and sustained professional development, strengthen system-wide supports and resources, and enhance parent communication and engagement. These recommendations gave us a lens for decision-making. They helped us move beyond personal preference and ask more system-level questions. Would this resource help create coherence? Would it support teachers with clarity and structure? Would it support differentiation and student needs? Would it help us communicate more clearly with families? Would it move us closer to the literacy system we are trying to continuously build? Those questions remained at the center of the review. And once again, this shows our K-5 pilot timeline. The pilot process occurred in phases. K-2 teachers participated in multiple pilot windows, and grades 3 to 5 participated in the final pilot window with Benchmark Advance and MyView Literacy. Each pilot included a launch meeting, an implementation window, and feedback from teachers, administrators, and families. This timeline is important because it shows that the recommendation was not made from a single meeting or a single impression. Teachers had time to use the materials, students had time to experience the lessons, administrators had time to observe, and families had opportunities to provide feedback. This slide highlights the support that accompanied the final phase of implementation. There were resource launch sessions for MyView K-5 and Benchmark grades 3 to 5. There were assessment deep dives with both vendors. There was additional virtual professional learning for our literacy coaches. We also conducted out-of-school visitations to Bridgehampton for Benchmark and Hop Hog for MyView. They were both in their first years of implementation with both resources. And throughout the process, the literacy coaches held weekly check-ins and maintained open dialogue with teachers, both synchronously and asynchronously. This mattered because piloting a resource well requires more than putting materials in classrooms. Teachers need time to understand the structure, try the lessons, ask questions, reflect on implementation, and think about how the resource fits with the needs of their students. This slide continues our implementation story. Both resources included in-class and additional professional development support. Consultants visited classrooms during and after the school day to model lessons, co-plan, and respond to teacher questions. The K-5 implementation concluded on June 5th, and the last literacy review team meeting took place on June 9th. On June 10th, We followed up directly with MyView Literacy and Benchmark Advance to address stakeholder wonderings and lingering questions. That follow-up was a very important step. Before moving toward a recommendation, we wanted to give each vendor an opportunity to clarify misunderstandings, respond to questions, and provide us with additional information. This slide shows the MyView Literacy launch, and during this launch, teachers engaged with the structure of the resource, explored materials, and began building understanding together. The phrase building understanding together is important because that is what the entire process required. Teachers were learning a new resource while continuing to teach, reflect, and offer feedback in real time. The launch helped teachers begin to understand the organization, routines, materials, and instructional possibilities within MyView. This slide shows the Benchmark Advance launch for grades 3 to 5. Teachers engaged with the materials again, explored unit design, and discussed how the resource could support reading, writing, vocabulary, and knowledge building. And similar to the MyView launch, this was not simply a training session. It was part of a larger evidence gathering process. Teachers were learning the resource and preparing to use it with students in order to provide meaningful feedback from actual classroom implementation. This slide shows the consultant visits from MyView Literacy K-2 classrooms. These visits allowed teachers to see lessons modeled, ask questions in context, and reflect on how the resource worked with our youngest learners. For K-2, we paid close attention to how the resource supported early literacy, early language, writing development, vocabulary, engagement, and classroom routines. The visits gave us a window into both the strengths of the resource and the areas where teachers needed clarity and additional support. This slide shows consultant visits for MyView Literacy grades 3 to 5. In the upper elementary grades, we look closely at student engagement, comprehension, writing, vocabulary, and the connection between reading and writing. Teachers had opportunities to try materials and observe student responses and reflect on the level of support that was provided. Throughout this phase, feedback highlighted some important strengths in MyView, including academic vocabulary, assessment resources, and predictable routines. Here are some more slides from visits with Benchmark Advance. And I included all of these photos because it's important to see how layered this process was. We had 28 classrooms and 39 teachers engaged in this process. 11 of those teachers are special education teachers. And I was going to take some of these slides out because it became lengthy, but I thought to myself, you know what? It's nice to highlight each classroom in action to show the community how involved everybody was. This slide shows students and teachers in action. So these slides are when the consultants weren't with us, but when we did our classroom visits. And for me, this is one of the most important parts of the process. And Dr. Bowman and I went on a lot of these visits together, which is where all of these pictures were captured. So it was nice to have a partner to talk about these things with and reflect along with our literacy coaches. A literacy resource can look strong sometimes in presentation or in a sample unit, but the real question is how it lives in classrooms. And we paid attention to student engagement, teacher clarity, student talk, written responses, access to texts, and the ways students were being asked to think. These classroom moments helped us understand the experience of the learner and the experience of the teacher. And here you'll see more students and teachers in action. And Dr. Bowman and I really enjoyed getting in on the action with the students as well, and speaking with the students about their learning. So now we're going to show some artifacts, and we're going to focus mainly on writing. We had so many artifacts, and we did provide the board throughout this process with folders with an abundance of there were no shortage of artifacts. In a very short period of time, we were able to show you a lot of learning and the process. We did choose writing tonight because we find that writing is a true window into the transfer of learning. So we're going to take you through some of those artifacts, and you do have them in the folders, the red folders I provided you with tonight. Student artifacts were an important part of this process. It was our evidence base because they helped us see what students were actually producing. In kindergarten, we looked at early writing, drawing, sound symbol connection, sentence development, and the way students were beginning to communicate meaning. These artifacts helped us consider how each resource supported early literacy development and writing growth. There's more kindergarten. And I should say that these are the artifacts from MyView Literacy. This slide shows grade 1 artifacts from MyView Literacy. In first grade, we looked at how students were beginning to organize ideas, connect writing to reading, and use language to express meaning. We also considered how the resource supported their ability to write with increasing independence. This slide shows grade 2, and at this level, we were looking for increased writing stamina, organization, clarity, and the ability to explain thinking. We also looked at whether writing tasks felt connected to reading and whether students had enough support to develop their ideas. This is grade 3, and as students move into upper elementary, the expectations for writing, comprehension, vocabulary, and analysis increase. I really liked this piece because it shows in our foundations, which we're keeping, K to 3, there is a script program component to our grade 3 foundations, and I really like the way this student is using their script in their writing. So as you can see, we look closely at whether students were being supported in developing stronger responses and whether the task promoted deeper thinking. This is grade 4 for MyView, and here we were really looking at the use of vocabulary, evidence from the text, their ability to explain their thinking. The team considered how effectively the resource supported students in writing about reading and developing more complex ideas. This slide shows grade 5. And at this level, we looked for evidence of written analysis, reflection, use of evidence, and student independence. And we also considered whether the resource supported students in preparing for the kind of reading and writing they'll be doing in middle school and beyond. I want to mention that we're going to review benchmark artifacts now. We're only showing you grades 3, 4, and 5 because on the website, you'll be able to find from cycle 1 in the pilot, all of the artifacts from K to 2. So we're just going to go through 3, 4, and 5. This slide shows grade 3 from Benchmark Advance. And with Benchmark, we saw examples of students engaging in writing connected to reading, storytelling, and structured literacy tasks. We also saw evidence of students developing ideas over time and using writing as a way to demonstrate understanding. These artifacts contributed to one of the strongest themes in the review. Benchmark showed strong evidence of authentic literacy practices. This slide shows grade 4 artifacts from Benchmark. Here we can see students producing more extended writing pieces and engaging in tasks that require them to develop ideas across a longer response. This connected to feedback we received about Benchmark supporting writing volume, multi-paragraph writing, close reading, and higher order thinking. These are important areas for our district as we continue to strengthen literacy instruction across grade levels. And here's grade 5. At this level, the student work reflected opportunities for writing, analysis, and reflection connected to text. Stakeholders repeatedly connected Benchmark with meaningful writing, integrated literacy experiences, vocabulary instruction, and reading and writing connections. Both themes became important as the team considered which resource provided the stronger foundation for our K-5 literacy framework. We're going to get into the feedback now. We're going to be looking at the teacher feedback first, and this slide provides us with the quantitative feedback, teacher feedback for Benchmark Advance and MyView Literacy, so we could have a nice comparison here. Teacher feedback was extremely important because teachers were the ones implementing the resources with students. And across the review, Benchmark received stronger overall ratings in many areas. Teachers identified strengths related to student engagement, instructional coherence, usability, differentiation, and authentic literacy experiences. For MyView, teachers also identified strengths, including comprehensive materials, vocabulary, assessment resources, and predictable routines. At the same time, there were recurring concerns around pacing, navigation, differentiation, and reading and writing connections. This is the qualitative feedback from teachers. Teachers noted strengths such as high student engagement, comprehensive literacy support, differentiation, and strong instructional support for Benchmark. Wonderings included pacing, writing, and skill alignment, and support and some logistics. For MyView, teachers noted strengths such as it's an all-in-one resource, engaging text and accessible materials, and predictable weekly routines. Wonderings included navigation, pacing, and instructional clarity, and support for diverse learners. This is a really good example of how the process honored complexity. Both resources had strengths, but both resources also raised questions. And our job was to determine which resource aligned to the district priorities and to the needs of our students and teachers. Here's the family quantitative feedback comparison. Family feedback gave us another important perspective. Families were able to comment on areas such as student interest, engagement, communication, and support at home. And the feedback for both resources really included a lot of positive elements. Families noticed student engagement in both and the visibility of the literacy work. And as we reviewed the family data, we considered not only the numbers, but also what families noticed about their children's experiences with the resources. And this is the qualitative feedback from families. For Benchmark, families noted areas such as rigor, higher level thinking, student-centered learning, integrated literacy connections, and student engagement. They also raised questions about curriculum communication, support at home, and balance of online and print components. For MyView, families noted student engagement, robust academic rigor, and visibility in student learning, but raised questions about clarity of purpose, how charts support learning, and how we can optimize work at home. I spoke about this a little bit at the last Board of Education meeting, the last update around the family data. We did hold on to a lot of the work until the end of the pilot cycle because we were continuously analyzing that work internally and really needed to refer back to it. So with the recommendation and the implementation of our new resource, families will be receiving more student work at home over the weeks. So that's why some of that feedback was reflected that maybe they didn't see as much as they would have liked until the end. And that's the reason why. We're going to move on to administrative quantitative feedback comparison. Administrators provided feedback based on classroom observations, instructional alignment, student engagement, implementation, and system-level considerations. Benchmark demonstrated stronger alignment in the administrator feedback across several categories. Administrators identified strengths related to coherence, curriculum alignment, student-centered materials, Tier 1 scaffolding, and implementation support. This was important because administrators were able to view the resource not only from a classroom lens, but also from a broader building and district implementation lens. This is the qualitative feedback comparison from the administrator group. For Benchmark, administrators identified strengths such as coherence and curriculum alignment, engaging student-centered materials, strong Tier 1 scaffolding, and meaningful integration of reading and writing. Their wonderings focused on resource and time management, assessment and writing clarity, and sustained balanced instruction. For my view, administrators noted strengths such as user-friendly organization and routine, rich vocabulary and content integration, and active student text interaction. Their wonderings included engagement versus ease of use, instructional depth and writing, and the differentiation and support needs. Again, the feedback did not suggest that one resource was perfect and the other had no strengths. Instead, it helped us understand which resource had the stronger overall alignment to the priorities we had established. It's probably my favorite feedback because it's from our students. We use qualitative feedback from our students to really capture some authentic learning experiences they had in the classroom. So for Benchmark Advanced, students noted strengths related to mastering point of view and perspective, high engagement through interaction and performance, accessible text formats and visual layouts, creative writing connections, and scaffolding and vocabulary and rereading. Students also raised wonderings about sustaining engagement, clarity of directions, calibrating the level of challenge, and balancing text with deep reading, and preserving joy and student choice. This feedback was valuable because students were honest. They helped us understand what supported them, what motivated them, and where they still need clarity or choice. This is the student feedback for my view literacy, the qualitative feedback. Students noted strengths such as high interest in real world knowledge, visual and multimedia support, creative and interactive experiences, evidence-based routines. They also raised some wonderings related to the physical navigation and size of the books, the reading length and engagement, clarity of directions and vocabulary, reading and writing disconnect, routine fatigue, and inconsistent joy and independence. So the student voice gave us an important lens because it really helped us not only think about what students were learning, but how they were experiencing the learning. So this brings us back to our literacy review team work. And this slide shows the 3 focus groups that reconvened on June 9th. The focus groups were organized around 3 lenses: curriculum, MTSS and assessments, and professional learning and communication. And each group reviewed feedback and student artifacts from MyView, K-5, and Benchmark Advanced, 3-5, through its assigned lens. This structure continuously helped us throughout the pilot analyze the resources through multiple perspectives. We were not only asking, do people like this resource? We were asking deeper questions about curriculum coherence and assessment and intervention and differentiation and professional learning and communication. This slide shows our literacy review team in action during that June 9th meeting. Team members reviewed evidence, examined student artifacts, sorted feedback on chart paper, and identified patterns across stakeholder groups. The chart paper was organized by categories such as students, teachers, systems, and district level considerations. This process helped us make the evidence visible, and it gave the team an opportunity to step back and look across all of the information and identify what mattered most. Then our team members participated in a gallery walk and used sticker dots to identify the ideas and themes they believed were most important. This helped us see patterns in the evidence and better understand what the team was prioritizing. The process was intentional. It created space for individual thinking and collective analysis and shared meaning making before moving toward a recommendation. So this slide shows the alignment of MyView and Benchmark to the 5 CASDA recommendations. Based on stakeholder feedback and the evidence gathered through the literacy review process, MyView demonstrated moderate alignment across the 5 recommendations. Benchmark demonstrated strong alignment in 4 of the 5 areas and moderate strong alignment in parent communication and engagement. Benchmark was repeatedly associated with curriculum alignment, reading and writing integration, annotation routines, coherent instructional design, meaningful writing, close reading routines, authentic literacy tasks, differentiation supports, scaffolds, accessible texts, and implementation supports. This alignment to the CASDA recommendations became one of the clearest pieces of evidence in the recommendation process. How was the resource chosen? This slide answers the question. The recommendations were based on 3 major areas. First, we considered the CASDA recommendations and Garden City literacy priorities. Second, we reviewed the committee's analysis of resources, student artifacts, and feedback from stakeholders. Third, we considered the experiences of teachers, students, and administrators during implementation. This was not a decision based on one person's opinion. It was not based on one survey or one classroom visit. It was based on a body of evidence collected across the entire review process. Okay, so here is our recommendation and next steps. As we bring this process to a close, the recommendation is to adopt Benchmark Advance as the stronger overall fit for Garden City. This recommendation did not come from one moment, one meeting, or one piece of feedback. It emerged from a thoughtful review process that included classroom visitations, observations, student artifacts, professional dialogue, professional learning, survey feedback from teachers, administrators, students, and families, and the evidence collected during our June 9th literacy review team meeting. During the final review, the team looked carefully at strengths, challenges, and considerations through the lenses of students, teachers, systems, and district priorities. We also followed up with both vendors to address questions and lingering wonderings. And across the evidence, Benchmark showed stronger alignment with the priorities we have been working toward as a district. It stood out in the areas of student engagement, differentiation, instructional coherence, usability, and authentic literacy practices. It aligns closely with the CASDA recommendations, especially our need for a more unified and cohesive literacy framework. At this time, I would like to honor the thoughtful work that happened throughout this process. There were strengths identified in both resources, and we will carry forward those practices and features that best support our students and teachers. What I mean when I say that is we learned from each resource that we implemented. We went from 12 to 5 to 3 to 2, and throughout that experience, we learned something from each of them. Those practices are agnostic to a resources. They're just great instruction. So we took away something from all of those resources. I also want to express my sincere gratitude to all of the stakeholders who contributed to this process, including, first and foremost, our students, our pilot teachers, our literacy coaches, our administrators, families, and vendor partners, Dr. Bowman, through supporting me through this work. Their time and honesty and reflection and collaboration helped us arrive at a recommendation that is grounded in evidence and centered on what is best for students. Moving ahead, our focus will be on implementation with care. That includes full implementation K-2 with early adopters in grades 3 through 5, sustained professional learning, coaching support, and continued reflection as we learn from teachers and students. Most importantly, this recommendation keeps us focused on what has guided the work from the beginning, providing students with literacy experiences that are engaging, coherent, rigorous, and responsive to their needs. Thank you.
I just wanted to also say thank you, Ms. Kaufman and Dr. Bowman, and to our literacy coaches. And then also a special thank you to all of our teachers who had to learn 3 different resources, a unit from each. That's no small feat to do, to prepare for in your classroom. So I want to thank And I want to thank our leaders for supporting our teachers in that work. So we're excited about the next steps. We know that no resource is perfect, so I'm sure there'll be a lot of work to do, kind of making it a good fit for us and our own. The question I had for you is just what does the how are we preparing the teachers for the fall? What does that exactly look like?
So we already have calendared PD sessions. We'll be starting that. We actually started the week before they left. I had emailed all of the teachers digital access, instant digital access to all of the materials. Benchmark provides a really nice PD platform, which will, of course, be optional over the summer for teachers to explore a lot of their training videos. They have a lot of asynchronous opportunities to engage with the resource. We have a lot of curriculum writing going on, teacher-facing documents and community-facing documents that a lot of our pilot teachers are engaging in over the summer because they're going to really help provide support to their colleagues. It's not only going to be from our coaches, from me, but they will be lead teachers, liaisons, because they're more familiar with the resources. Additionally, on Superintendent's Conference Day, we've already booked a date with Benchmark. Well, they'll be here a full day to unpack the resource. They'll give a tour of the digital access for the teachers, all of the teacher manuals and materials, the student materials, and we'll unpack Unit 0, which is our foundations and routines. There's a foundations and routines unit K-5 and Unit 1. That'll take us to October, and then every couple of months, we will unpack the next 2 units. The goal really, though, is that we want to build capacity with our coaches, with me, with our teachers, to be able to start unpacking these units like a gradual release. So we're front loading a lot of this PD that will happen. We also don't want to overbook ourselves with PD because we want to see what we need as we engage through the process. So we need to be responsive to the needs of the teachers and the students during that time. I also want to thank you and the board. Your engagement throughout this process has been incredible, and I really appreciated all of the questions that ensued and will continue throughout. So thank you.
First and foremost, thank you for that very thorough presentation. I very much appreciated the student feedback as well. I love that students noted that there was room in the margins to jot down notes. They're very aware, these children. I think it's great. Kristen asked one of my questions. I had 2 more, if I may, just in terms of communication to families and students come September about beginning this new journey in literacy, what that might look like. And I was also just curious about, it kind of stood out like a big red arrow over it for me about teacher feedback on differentiation and the differences between the program. I was just wondering if you could speak to that at all and why Benchmark's grade for that, for lack of a better word, just seemed a little bit more thorough, perhaps.
So I think what stood out to the teachers is that there are differentiation supports right in the margins of the teacher manuals. They're right there, and you can't miss them. You don't have to go digging or searching for them. There were less available resources, for my view. One of the big pieces is, what's a great resource without great implementation, without making things accessible to the teachers, to the students. There were several levels of differentiation of support, as well as scaffolded graphic organizers, things like that, where what we liked is our students are reading the same content. So no one will feel, it's very inclusive. No one will feel left out of the process, even if they have difficulty accessing the material, because there's a support that's so strong that will give them the access to that content. It was just a little more difficult in the other resource to find it and navigate it and figure it out. It felt a little more disconnected for our students and our teachers.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Thank you, Lauren. I just want to point out where we were a year ago today and how our community was so concerned about how you were supporting literacy for the K through 5 population. And the question was asked and you answered in such a thorough, impressive way. And that it was a real feat of leadership, the fact that you got everybody on board like this. And it's, you have our support with the success in this and anything you need. It looks very impressive. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Um, I know you asked me about parent and I didn't answer that question and I'm just thinking now.
No,
Would you
that's,
like me to
if,
answer?
if you don't mind,
Oh.
or more also very selfishly, I will admit, I will soon have a second grader. So I was just curious what that's going to look like on the first month of school and what other parents can expect too.
Sure. I think right now we're in conversation about the different ways it can look, and I want to work with the parent community to see what best would meet the parent needs. You know, obviously we can do different types of things. We can do PTA meetings. We could do virtual option where we record something and then have it, you know, on our literacy page for families to access. Benchmark alone has so many materials already for parents to access. That's something that we're very pleased with this resource is that there is not a shortage of materials for parents, for teachers, for students. So the different ways, but we'd be open to feedback about what's going to work best for our community and our parents.
Thank you. You know, if I could add to that, you weren't on the board, I think maybe Mr. Cilio may have been, but when we had looked at a new primary math resource, that's one of the things we learned through that process was really being in the forefront with the parent communication. And I think what you'll see is even with this whole literacy pilot process, we have been putting everything on our website. That's been our main mode of communication. With this one, you know, there'll be on the webpage all of the resources that Benchmark has. And similarly, what we did with, you know, when we had done the mathematics is holding parent, you know, and most likely it'll be virtual because we tend to get parents virtually, more parents participate that way, and just sharing information with them. And with the newsletters, particularly in K1 and 2, the parent newsletters will definitely have a whole section on literacy. We've been doing that already, but it'll be just much more. Okay. Thank you. I also wanted to just kind of reinforce this one. I think we have to acknowledge the heavy work that our teachers were engaged in with this, with piloting, learning, and doing that work, and then giving us such great feedback on what is best for our students in our community, and our principals as well. It was a big lift. And I think everybody rose to the occasion because everybody saw this as an opportunity to elevate our literacy instruction in our district. And thank you.
Thank you.
Just quickly to add on to that, I just wanted to say that I'm so happy to see that teachers' voice was a big part of this process because you want them to feel like they're making this choice for what they think is best for their students. So the fact that teachers' voice was such an integral part of this whole process is something that I feel very proud of for us as a district. So I'm glad that you led it in that way, and the teacher's voice was always at the center of that too.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I would say this has been kind of years in the making. So I know you've been working hard and other people have. We've been talking about this for as long as I can remember. So appreciate the effort. And then obviously we're looking forward to reports as it kind of progresses and actually rolls out and you start to see more feedback, whether it's consistent or if there's anything else that you need from a resource perspective to make sure that we kind of align with what you've seen in the pilots. Obviously, it's never kind of done when you launch it. It's a multi-year process we saw with the math program. So please keep that in mind as you're moving forward. And I'm sure we'll be talking about it in the future.
Thank you. Yeah.
Then we'll continue with Dr. Sinha's report.
Thank you.
All right, just a couple of things that I have a short report. One is definitely on graduation and the prom event. It's, first of all, our pre-prom event is so nice because we made a change a couple of years ago to have it across from the Garden City Hotel. It is, if you ever go during prom time on 7th Street, it is just beautiful, beautiful. And what the PTA does is unbelievable. They make it extra special for our students and our families. Equally, our graduation was wonderful this year, and we were going back and forth. Will it be indoors or outdoors? And we did have it outdoors, and we definitely want to thank our high school administrators, Mr. Steingrubner, Mr. Cohen, Ms. Hauser, and Ms. Stefankevich. They did a phenomenal job, along with our buildings and ground staff and our custodial staff. We were planning for both inside and outside, and they worked very hard to make sure that day was perfect. And then our parents, we had a lot of parent volunteers. I think there were over 50 parents and students that came and really helped us make it a beautiful graduation outside. And it didn't rain. So we lucked out. And Miss Kapani, congratulations. Your son graduated, Angelo, and Miss Gaffney, her daughter, Lily, also graduated. So it was a great event. We had our first day of our administrative retreat. It's today. It was today, and it'll be again tomorrow. We invite the board if you'd like to come towards the end of tomorrow to, really hear about our priorities for next year. You're more than welcome to. And our focus today was all around leadership. We've worked with Laura Campbell for, I think, 6, 7 years now. She came and we really kicked our retreat off on leadership. It was wonderful, and our entire 2 days of learning is really led by our own people, our administrators. There's so much wealth of knowledge within our team that they're leading some great events. We had I think, a great day today. Would you say, Dr. Bowman, Ms. McLaughlin? It was a good day of learning for us. And Ms. Kaufman, it was good, right? We had a good day. And so we're looking forward for tomorrow. We also have our summer programs. Our scope program will start on July 6th, along with our extended school year program on July 6th, which is coming up. I also wanted to mention again, I mentioned it at our last meeting, our high school, or I think I mentioned in my letter that went to families, a high school track with all the construction happening, and we're redoing our fields, our main field, with the turf. We're putting in the new turf, replacing the turf, I should say. So that track will be closed, and I know our community members use that track. So, again, we should be able to open it up, I would say probably mid-August, around that time frame, but that whole area will be closed. Ms. Pappas talked about the annual reading of some policies. We also have 2 other policies that are for annual reading, which is the responsible use policy and the artificial intelligence policy. And those 2 are on the agenda for the second read and then for adoption. Okay. Let's see. And on the agenda, we also have some additional policy for adoptions, and they were on last month's agenda, which is the use of cell phones, student attendance, and let's see. We also have the acceptance of the benchmark advance as our primary literacy resource, as well as some other summer curriculum design projects on the agenda. Thank you. Oh, and I also wanted to wish everyone a happy 4th of July. That's coming up. That's a big celebration.
Thank you, Dr. Sinha. Are there any reports from any members of the Board of Education? Okay. Does the board have any questions on the agenda? None. Okay. This is the time period designated for the public to address the board on action items on the agenda or topics concerning the school district. Questions or comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. A maximum of 30 minutes will be set aside for public comment. This will allow the board to complete the agenda, which often has personnel or time-sensitive matters. Please come to the microphone and state your name and address.
Getting you a microphone.
Oh, you're missing a mic. I give you mine, but mine's not working.
Just turn it off.
I turn it on and then it just shuts off.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just, but then it goes.
Just hold it. Okay. Can you hear me? Melissa Hardy, 121 Meadbrook Road, Garden City. I have one kid in the district right now. Two graduated. And I'm here because of the announcement of the change for the swim and dive coach Ann Sullivan. I know I've sent emails that maybe some of you received, and I just wanted to express my concern about the change as well as the way it was communicated, and make everyone known that it's not in the best interest of our students, especially our student athletes. As I mentioned, I have 3 kids. All 3 of them have contributed to the swim and dive program. But 2 of them swim now in college level, and my last one is a diver on the team, and she's entering in sophomore year. So, I know everyone here probably has known about what's happening. I think the sentiment that Coach Ann and her record and her contribution to this community is not being acknowledged for what she has done, as well as there's not been much communication as to why the transition happened. I'm going to spare everyone the accolades of Coach Ann, but I have written them quite extensively as to how much meaning she give to the program and how she has handled the program from the last 30 years, as well as created that pipeline of children from the GC pool. And there wouldn't really be a swim program if she weren't actually actively doing that. There are not enough swimmers in our community to be able to pull from, so she actually creates the swim team. And I think that's really important to note if you're thinking about the future of the swim team. So of course, I'm saying that she is irreplaceable. It's an incredible loss that she is not going to be in Gardens leading the team as head coach. And my questions are really, what is the motivation behind the decision? In the email that Ed Ramirez sent to the swim families, it said that there was succession planning that was being done. And I really want to understand what that succession planning means, as well as what framework was applied and has been applied consistently across all of the different teams for succession planning, as well as why the families weren't notified, or how could we have done a better job, and what can be done, to make this better for us, because we are devastated.
We'll prefer getting back to Ms. Hardy.
There's no comments?
No, there definitely are, but I want to be thoughtful in my response to you. And I also want to consult with Mr. Ramirez before I respond to you. So if I can, if tomorrow, but later in the day tomorrow, I will.
Thank you.
Hi. I'd like to speak on the same issue. I know I sent all of you email. My daughter's been swimming for Ann in some capacity since she was 8 years old. Ann has been coaching in Garden City for 30 years. Last week, my daughter received a text message at 14 years old. She was just simply told, come to a meeting in room 121 of the high school, a building that she's not familiar with yet. She arrived at the meeting expecting to see her coach, who she knows well, who has been here again for over 30 years. And she walked into the room, and all of the student athletes were faced with Mr. Ramirez and somebody they didn't know. They were told that they were getting a new coach because it's better to have a teacher in the building coaching. and that we are choosing to move the program in a different direction. I can think of 100 better ways to have handled this just off the top of my head. If anyone has met a 14-year-old girl, you can probably imagine her reaction in the car when she came out of this meeting and got into the passenger seat of my car. My family has known Anne for years. She swam in the Olympic trials and was admitted into the Hall of Fame for her many coaching accolades. I spoke with Mr. Ramirez. And as I said in my email, I was left with many questions after that conversation. I too am an educator, and as an educator, I see it as our calling to teach children how to go out into the world and respect others, and to learn how to make a positive mark. I really feel like we missed the boat here. It's really hard to explain why Anne, after so many years and devoting her time to this program, was not able to be given the send-off that she deserves on her own timeline. So I'm just really disappointed in how this was handled. I understand that you can't discuss personnel matters, but I really think that the administrators could have handled this in a much better way. There are many families that have known Anne for years. We didn't even hear about this until our children came out of the meeting and we started calling and emailing and trying to figure out what was going on. So I was really disappointed in this.
Were you gonna address anything?
Oh, sorry.
Sarah Hogan, 43 Kenwood Road. I should have said that at the beginning, sorry.
Tina Marshallow's 171 Garden Street. I had a question. I saw the professional learning strategic plan in the agenda, and it's, it's pretty high level, and I wanted to understand where I can see additional details on what will happen. And Dr. Sin, I know we've talked about professional development for the teachers for teaching students with dyslexia. And while I appreciate that there have been strides there, towards the end of the year, we're still not seeing the effects of that. So I'm very curious what the detailed plan is for meeting the diverse needs of all learners, and then also the one around excellence via the science of reading. So is there a more detailed view? Because some of the materials I've seen come home towards the end of the year are not only not helpful for a dyslexic learner, they're not helpful for someone with ADHD, someone with sensory issues and other challenges.
So our professional development plan, we have certain number of hours that our teachers are provided with. And that plan, in fact, those days have been allotted for different types of professional development already. We do provide quite a bit around dyslexia. I mean, I could probably give you a list of how many professional development sessions we hold throughout the year, particularly through our special ed office for all teachers, not just special ed teachers. And I think that that's an area that, along with reading, I don't think there's ever enough professional development. And some of the challenges that we have, like any other schools as well, is finding the amount of time. Time is always a resource that's difficult for particularly our teachers, because they're, pulling them out of classrooms and providing professional development, which we do after school. There's virtual, there's in person, there's a variety of those. But we're, if you want something detailed as we're providing professional development, particularly on reading, could share that with you.
Yeah, I'd be curious in the types of things that are being shared, not just, even just simple, we've talked about this, right? Simple things of not giving children a ton of dense text, right? And making bullet points, to still not see some of those simple modifications towards the end of the year. I just want to make sure we hit the ground running for September. So I would be interested in seeing additional info. Thank you.
Okay. To make more efficient use of meeting time, the Board of Education authorizes the use of a consent agenda as part of the meeting agenda. A consent agenda allows for one motion to approve multiple items, and such items are identified as such on the agenda. The president of the board will ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda and will ask if board members wish to have discussion and or clarification on specific items contained within the consent agenda. Following the discussion, the board will then vote on the consent agenda motion. In addition, a board member may request to have an item removed from the consent agenda in order to vote on the motion separately. Be it resolved that the Board of Education approves the consent agenda, which includes business of the board items I-1 through I-11, personnel matters items J-1 through J-8, business office matters items K-1 through K-10, curriculum matter L1 and L2, and special education matters items M1 through M6.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any new business from the board? Any new business from the administration? Our next Board of Education meeting will be held on Tuesday, August 18th, 2026, here at the Garden City High School. It's a regular session at 7:30 p.m. May I have a motion that there being no further business to come before the board, the meeting be adjourned?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Just your gavel.